Oh, that was fast. Okay, so today we're gonna go through how to build out permissions, um, and uh, some of it's permissions, some of it is like you'll see, I guess. So I'm gonna send a repo out to you folks in just a second. But I guess we can start off with, does anyone have any questions?
Based on stuff we talked last week or just in general?
Based on anything.
Well, on the comment you made, but other than that, not right now.
Yeah, we can probably take that a different discussion, but um, oh yeah, so there's some certain things that I kind of wanted to start talk about as far as the interview stuff goes, the app that we're working on. I'm gonna focus more on the boring parts, which is like how is this thing gonna look, like the styling. So thank you, VJoy, for installing Bootstrap, but I don't want you folks to kind of stress about like, oh, how should I present the information? You let me worry about that because I think that that's a lot more tedious and it's kind of more of like a designer's role to do that. So I guess I'll be the designer, I guess, in this project. So don't worry about like, oh, how am I going to present this data on the web, on the HTML and all that. Just dump it on the HTML and let me worry about like organizing it properly.
Okay.
Um, once I kind of get like a theme going, that we all agree that looks kind of nice, then I'll pass the torch on to you folks, and then you folks can kind of like, okay, these are the how it looks here. This is how I should make it look in other places as well. Um, let's see. A second thing is if you're installing gems to just add so that the entire team um, can access it, just go ahead and put it in into the gem file, and then just bundle it, and then push it up to um, a pull request and merge it. Unless you're super unsure of whether you did something incorrectly. So if I'm installing something that doesn't have like a script, then so I guess like if I was installing Pride Rails or something that doesn't need an installation step or anything, I would just add it to the gem file, update the gem file lock file, and then just push it up to a pull request and just say like, hey, everyone, I'm putting in this gem uh, into our repo. So if you want to have access to it, just make sure you update your master branch or your feature branch with master, which I guess we can cover in a different, maybe next week. Go over Git. But does that make somewhat sense?
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so I pasted in the repo that we're going to be working on today. Today, I think I don't want you to pull it down right now, but it's kind of just a reference to what we're going to be doing. Okay, let me move my stuff around because the screen that I'm looking at is way too big. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we have this application here that is. Can y'all see that? Is that big enough?
Yeah.
Cool. Oh, that's weird. Why is this weird? Anyway, that must be a new Rails thing. I didn't do that. Okay, so we have. So let's say that this is a brand new application. You just cloned it down. What are the first things you do?
Bundle install.
Yeah, so you bundle install. Once you bundle install, then you
I create a static.
what?
I create a static page.
Well, no, like you're trying to get this application running,
Okay, so
Oh,
starting
yeah.
a database and stuff like that.
right? So yeah. So you create db migrate, and in this particular application, it will have seeds. So you can do break db seed, and it'll
What's a
create.
seed?
What was that?
What's a seed?
Oh, okay. That's a great question. Oh, really? Okay, that's a better spread. So, what is a seed? Good question. Okay, so in your DB file, DB folder, you have a file called seeds, plural. And what this is when someone says like seed the database or anything along those lines, they're talking about like putting in some really dummy data. And they're talking about like data that you can kind of just start running with on your local machine. So in your seeds file, you can do whatever you want in here. This kind of behaves like a console, and every time you run db seeds, it reruns this file.
Okay. So if you run it twice, do you have twice the data?
Yes.
Okay.
So if you don't want twice the data, you can run a command called break db reset. And what that will do, it'll drop your database, rerun it'll load the database from your schema file, and then run your seed file. If you don't want to do all that, you can just do everything manual.
Okay.
Migrate db seed. I don't know if it's db. I guess db seeds. So the reason why I was kind of doing this, you know what? I'm just gonna change this. This is
No, I understand. I haven't used seed before, but
no. It's not that. Don't save. So what I was trying to do is, do you see how like I have created posts for me and Anon? I'm trying to get a better spread, and by I mean when I say spread, like I want to get like at least 5 from Anon and 5 from me. Yeah, like see that's a little bit better.
okay.
Okay, so the use case here is like we have this application, and I don't need that. What it does, I don't think I have a server running, is that we have a bunch of posts, a bunch of blog posts, and here it says who it's created by, and then like here's like the title, right? Or I'm sorry, this is the title, and this is like the finished World of Warcraft. Yeah. The body of the post. Okay, so it's super simple application, and what we're trying to do, the product manager came down to us and said like, hey, can you please add the ability for users to add collaborators to their posts, so that let's say I am me@gmail.com, but I also want my buddy, and there's a username with buddy@gmail.com to also be able to edit my posts. So let's see. Let's log into users sign in, and then we're gonna say me@gmail.com password. Is that super secure? And so I already have like this implementation of the idea of I can edit a post, right? So let me pull up that file, which is posts index. And at the very top, what I want to do is just kind of add a. I want to add like a welcome to make sure that we know who we are at all times. So actually, if I want this, so if I want something that says like welcome, and then maybe like my username, right? User.name. But I want it everywhere I go. Like this is kind of like the nav bar. Where would I put this? Would I put this in the index, or would I put it somewhere else? Jackie, you're muted.
Sorry, you want it in the nav bar? Or the...
Yeah, right.
Where did you say you wanted it?
So I wanted it like everywhere I go, right? So if I have it in the index, right, I'll have like welcome user.email up top, which is fine. But when I go to edit posts, I don't have that here.
Application.html.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I'm just gonna do it right here. So we want to say like welcome current user, and current user comes from devise, so that's going to give us a user object, and then we're just going to say email, and then we want to add the ability to also log off, just so we can make it makes it easier for us to test this thing out, right? So destroy user path, and then method delete. Okay. Can anyone tell me why I need this?
Method delete or that whole line?
Method delete.
You're destroying that session.
Right. But why can't I just do this? If I do that, I come here, destroy session path. I'm logging out. This is the best way to get the routes. User path. So okay. The reason why I need that is because links are always going to be gets, right? So we were talking about a RESTful verb. There's four main ones that Rails uses. There is get, post, patch. Patch and put are kind of synonymous, and then delete. So if you look at destroy user session, it's a delete verb. So if I don't have this method delete, and I click on this, and I'll show you. This is my server log for the current application. Oh, that's too big. Okay, so I'm gonna wipe it out. I'm gonna hit buy, and I'm going to get this no route matches, right? Because it says, okay, started, get users sign out, right? And if we're looking at our routes file, we don't have a get users sign out.
So even though the only RESTful verb associated with that destroy user session path is delete, it's still going to automatically look for get.
Yeah, it's gonna look. It's a two-tier thing, right? Because it has to find the right verb and the right path. There are instances where, like here, we have three same URLs. They're the same URLs, but different verbs, and so they do different things, right? So these two verbs, like I was saying, Rails treats patch and put as synonymous. So they're going to the same action, but this delete path, this delete verb will take the request to a different method in the controller. And same is true with post path, right? There's a get, there's a patch put, and then there's a delete. So under the same URL, you can do three different things. You can either show the post, you can update the post, or you can destroy it based on the verb that you send it with.
What's good practice, like to declare the method regardless, or if there is more than one, declare the method.
What do you mean? Oh,
So you know how
this?
it's method delete?
Yeah. So this method delete thing is a Rails flag. So remember remember how I made a comment on your thing asking why you deleted this?
Yeah.
This library will actually look for links that have this flag that says like method, and then you specify a method, and then it'll block the link from doing a get and then translate it into whatever method you're putting in there. So by default, all links by the browser are a get. You cannot do a post, patch, delete, anything else with a link in the browser. The way you do a post is that you have to write a form. But you can't do a method. I don't think you can do a delete method or a patch method with a form on HTML. The way you do that is through JavaScript. So if you don't have this library here, like let's say I just delete this, even if I have this method delete here and I go back to my page, I refresh, hit buy, it's going to say no routes get, even though I have this method delete. And that's because, again, that feature is coming from this library here. So if that's a little too over your head, just make sure that whenever you are trying to send a non-get, set up a non-get link, you need this library here, jQuery UJS, and you need this flag here that says like get. You can do patch here as well. Obviously that's not going to work because we don't have a patch, but you can see that the request is coming through as a patch, and then even on our server, it's a patch for.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So now that we got that done, okay. So the idea is that like I want a few checkboxes down here that says like that lists all of the users in the application, which there are only 3 right now, so it's not really a huge performance issue. And then I just want to be checking off like, oh, you know, I want Buddy to also have access to this thing. So how do we start doing that?
So
go ahead, Jackie.
was that the edit page back there? Yeah, so on the edit page you want checkbox? I don't know how to do a checkbox, but
so I have the method right here, right? So it's like, okay, we want checkboxes, and then we want to say the collaborators.post, right? This doesn't work because the data model isn't set up, right? So right now we only have 2 tables. We have posts and users. So let's back up a little bit. Like when someone says, okay, we need these oftentimes designers and product managers will be like, oh, you know, we need these checkboxes here, and they do this kind of behavior, right? So before you can do all that, though, you need to set up your data in your database to make sure that that's something that's possible, and you can set up that data in your console before you can start putting it on your HTML page. So let's do that first, right? So we have posts and we have users. How do we give the ability to say like, oh, you know, I also want this person to be able to edit the posts?
We have to put in their email somehow.
can you give the users like a user's like a post ID, because a user can have many posts, like edit many posts?
Yeah, I mean, a user already has many posts, right? If we're looking at posts here, we have a user ID.
That's true.
So I guess we could make this an array of IDs, right? And then whoever is in that array can edit the posts. But then it's back to that, it's really complicated to kind of keep track of that, and then removing and adding new people is going to be difficult, and so on and so forth. The things that we kind of discussed last week.
You can make a collaborators table. Is that what you're getting at?
Okay, so what does the collaborators? I'm gonna call it collaborations because collaborator feels like you'd be storing another user in there, like a collaborators thing, where we're kind of describing a relationship, right? Collaboration. Okay, so what goes into collaboration?
A post
So belongs to posts and
has many users or belongs to user.
okay, why did you change your mind?
Because you weren't typing has many.
So what we're doing here is that we're building the table, right? How do you? So Jackie, like this is kind of like doing something like create table, and then you pass it in like post ID, right? And that's a integer. Sorry, I don't. I think this is something like how you would write it in SQL. But how do you do that with in here? How do you say has many, right? You can't. You can't be like, oh, alter table user, right? And then like post ID or something like that, right? You can't do that inside of this parentheses. So I'm pretty positive you can't do like T is this is like a table, and so what you're saying is like, okay, table, you're gonna have a column with integer, and the name of this is gonna be foo ID, right? So the belongs to is gonna be doing the same. It's gonna say T integer
Okay.
user ID.
Okay, that makes sense. For a second, I thought we were in the model, but
Yeah, so we're not. Yeah, this is in the. Yeah, we're creating the migration that creates a table. And then I'm just gonna make sure these guys are indexed. Bijoy, do you know what an index? What's the benefit of indexing these things?
No idea.
Jackie?
it allows for you to more efficiently search the database later. It's like the equivalent of dictionary. You know how it's all the words are separated by A, B, C, D. An index also does that.
Yep. So I don't know how it works, to be honest. And maybe Jackie, you can ask Jackie later, or you can look it up. But it just makes the search for a specific ID a lot faster. Does that make sense, Bijoy?
Yeah, very.
Cool.
It's kind of like a hash. Not really.
Again, I'm not 100% sure how it works under the hood.
Okay. I mean, I understand what it means.
But yeah, it's instead of looking at an array, it's like looking at a hash. It's like one, right? It's a constant speed versus like end speed. Okay, so we added the collaboration table. I just ran the migration. Yeah, that's good. And sorry, I'm gonna try to stop and using the fuzzy search. So here we are in the collaborations model. What do we need to do here?
So this is where, like Jackie said, it has many users.
So if a collaboration,
I know you said it belongs to a user, but that's one user.
So if a collaboration has many users, that means that which table holds the foreign key?
The
The post table.
Wait, hold on. If I say has many users
Okay.
here, that implies that which table has the foreign key? Which table has a foreign key?
the users table?
Right. But if we look at the users table, we don't have a collaborations ID, right? We have a user ID on the collaborations table, so that means that if we go to user, we can do has many collaborations, right? And that's cool. So on the opposite end, this should be what?
Belongs to user?
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay, so I connected the collaborations table with the user table, and then we need one more connection, right? It's between the collaboration and post. So Vijay, how do I do that?
Is it going to be the same thing, belongs to post, and on the post you're going to have has many collaboration?
Post. Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Collaboration, collab. Sorry.
You just kept it a collab.
I like to be very lengthy with my words, just so that they're just very descriptive and it's a lot easier to read. Okay, so if we look at users, right, we're trying to say, give me all of the posts that I'm a collaborator on, right? But we already have posts, right? We already have has many posts, and this is posts that I have written, right? And so we need another has many, and let's just call this friend posts, right? And these are the posts I'm a collaborator on. Right? So how do I set this relationship up?
You have to set up another table.
Okay, so if I set up another table, what is that table going to hold? What information is that going to hold?
It's going to hold collaboration ID, user ID, and friend post ID.
Jackie, do you agree?
I don't know. I'm confused. So you want like another table with friends posts. These are the posts that you're collaborating with?
So under the collab, what can you show me what's under the collaboration table again?
Yeah. So no, I don't want another.
Table.
Do you want the schema?
Yeah.
So I don't want. I don't want this. This doesn't mean I want another table. This means that when I do user, lowercase user, not uppercase user, friend posts, that I'm going to get all of the posts I'm a collaborator on. Versus user.post, which is going to give me all of the posts I've authored. So this is just setting up a method, right? This is like a method. It's not saying there's another table called friends post. But how do I? So I have collaborations, right? And this is a joining table, right? It's joining users with posts, but it's describing the relationship between users and posts because this table describes what posts a user is a collaborator on.
So under the collaboration table, you can have uh, post ID 1, user ID 1, post ID 1, user ID 2. That's what we want, correct?
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So on collaborations, user ID, and then post ID, right? So here I have I'm a collaborator on 2. I'm a collaborator on 3. Right? And then maybe on posts, user ID, ID. So I am the author of post 1. On 2, someone else is the author, and someone else is the author of post 3. So with this information, user ID 1 has access to all of the posts. They can edit, and they can edit the title or edit the body of any of the posts in the database. But user 2 can only edit these 2 because they are not a collaborator on post 1. And so for us to be able to do that, then we would just add this row here.
Wouldn't user ID and post ID 1 be in the collaborations table as well?
Wouldn't, say that one more time?
Wouldn't like post ID 1 and user ID 1 be in the table because user 1 can edit the post as well?
You could do it that way, but you already have the user ID in the posts table. Like you want to know who is the original author, right? Like so maybe think about it like in GitHub terms, right? There's an owner of an organization who can add collaborators to the organization, but you always want to know who was the original author of the organization so that they can have the power to, let's say, do something destructive like delete the entire organization, right? Whoever created it can destroy it.
Okay, that makes sense, yeah.
So yeah, this is totally something that could happen. Let's just say that our domain doesn't we don't want to do this in our domain because we always want to know who is the original author of the post.
Okay. That makes sense. So I've never written methods, like has many methods like that. Where would you write this type of method?
So this is kind of where like the Rails magic kind of comes along. When you do has many, it creates a method on the class. So that is equivalent to post, like so. It just allows you to configure it a lot faster. So what we are going to do is we said that the collaboration table is a joining table, right? It joins users and posts together. So when you're talking about a joining table and you're trying to get the records of the table that you're joined to, you're going to use this through option. And where you're going to go through is the collaborations table. The last thing we're going to need is, oh no, we don't need that. Yeah, because we enabled it.
So I know you have has many friend post here, but where do you set it up? Where are you setting up friend posts?
Friend posts can be anything. This is just what I'm calling the method. I could say foo bars.
I know. I mean, regardless of what you call it, like, you know how like collaborations, you have something set up in the table. For post, you have something set up in the table.
I have as a table here, right?
Correct. Yeah, but friend posts,
Oh,
I know it's through collaboration.
Yeah.
I just can't wrap my head around it.
Right. So.
Do you get it, Jackie?
No, I'm.
Okay. So let me just show you in the console. Okay. That's no good. Oh yeah, because I have all these examples at the bottom. Okay, so we have me. I'm the first user, right? And what we were saying was I have a lot of posts, right? So me.posts is going to return back all of the posts where I'm the author, right? User ID 1, user ID 1, user ID 1. Okay. When I do, let's say, I think Anon is the only person that has posts in this database. So Anon is the last user, and if I do anon.post, it's going to return me a different set of posts, right? So let's say Anon wants to add Anon wants to add me as a collaborator on post ID 3. Okay. So here we have the post in question, post.find 3. So what we're going to do is, okay, so user, so non-friend posts, define relationship, collaborations, and
You have collaboration spelled wrong.
oh, if you, yeah. So a non.friend posts. That's going to find friends posts and friends posts not collaboration. Oh. Actually, I have the answers. I did this before getting on the call with you folks. So let me pull that up. Oh, that's right. So when you pull down this repo, there will be another branch called answer, and that's where the answers are. Through collaboration source posts. That's friends posts, yeah. Okay, through collaborations. Okay. Source posts. Okay, so what this is doing is saying I'm going to select the posts that are that have the ID in the collaborations table where a user ID is set to 3. So it's going to look at collaborations, collaboration, and there's nothing in here, so it's not going to pull anything out. So if I create a collaboration between user 3 and post, oh wait, actually what I want to do is me. So friend post. So what I'm saying is that Anonymous is giving me permission to edit his post or her post. And I'm saying that by adding a collaboration here, record here. So what this means is that user 1 is going to have access to post ID 3.
Where did you see ID 3?
Posts, because Anon has a post with ID 3 right here.
Okay.
Yeah. So post that on 3. Okay, so if I do me.reload, and reload, what it does is that it destroys the object in Ruby and then asks SQL for the latest data, and then it syncs up with the database. So if I do me.friend posts, you'll see that now I have access to that one post that I put, which has the ID 3. So let's go back a little bit to this. Okay, so has many is a method that is given to you by Rails. When the first argument that you pass it into is just going to be the method that you want to name this relationship, right? You're describing a relationship with another table. So whenever you do like has many foo is just going to be the method. You can pass it options that help Rails figure out what the relationship is set up, or how the relationship is set up. So Rails, this is why Rails is kind of like super magical, right? Like here, I don't need to pass it any configurations, right? I just say it has many collaborations, and Rails, from just this word, can deduce that there is another table called collaborations, and it's going to have my foreign key in there. And so the query that I'm going to say is like, select all collaborations, select from collaborations where user underscore ID, and it gets user because it's looking at the class table or the class name. User underscore ID is equal to my record ID. So it does all of that by just typing when you just type this. So it's super magical, right? But let's say you have a specific relationship where you don't have like a one-to-one relationship, right? You don't have a friends post, but you're telling Rails, okay, I want a method. It's describing friends post. You have no idea what this is because there isn't a friends post. So I'm going to tell you what it is. It's going to be a relationship through the collaborations table, and what I'm looking for are posts. So if we look at the collaborations table, we can see that, okay, I'm coming from the user, which means my query is going to say select all collaboration records where the user ID is my ID, and then I'm going to look for all of the posts because I'm telling it that the source that I'm looking for is post. I'm going to pull out all the post IDs, and then I'm going to look on the post table for all of the records in this array of IDs.
I understand where you're going. I mean, I understand what you did. We haven't, I don't know if about Jackie, but every time we've had like has many something, like that something always had a table or was in a table. So this was just kind of, it was brand new to me.
Yeah, I've never seen this. I mean, I've read the documentation, but a little bit, yeah. But I've never seen a method being declared. So that's cool, though. You could do that.
Let me think. I mean, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week, right? We were trying to build, I guess we didn't do it in Rails, but we kind of did it in that spreadsheet. We were trying to build a joining table, right? So this is essentially how you would do it. The only difference is that is this.
Correct.
Right? So if I do has many posts, and I reload this instance here, and I do, was it me? me.posts is going to give me the posts that I'm a collaborator on. But then that breaks because I also need the posts that I authored.
It breaks why?
So there's two separate lists, right? Posts that I've authored versus posts that I'm a collaborator on. So authored posts are described as posts where user ID is equal to my user ID, whereas friend posts are posts where I'm a collaborator on, and then the collaborator is defined by having the post ID and my ID and my user ID on the collaboration table.
Yeah.
What does it make sense?
No, it makes sense. It was just the whole, I had to get used to the fact that you don't necessarily need a table to make it work.
Jackie?
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, it was just new, but yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to delete that. So the only thing that is different is the word, friends post, like the method that we're calling it, and then we need to tell it what are you looking for. So this is saying in the collaborations model, there is a belongs to, and the name of it is post, and so you're going to load that because it can't deduce that from here, right? Like there isn't a friend post in the collaborations. I guess we could do friend posts like that, and then we just have to tell it the foreign key. And I think this is going to work. Oops. So now we don't need this. So that's what's. So I put friend post on collaborations, but because our foreign key is called post ID, I need to tell Rails, hey, the foreign key is actually not friend post ID, but post ID. Okay. Dude, my cat's like,
See, if you led with this and went to the other one, that would make more sense for me.
Okay. Let me just make sure that it works. First. Oh, okay. So I need to user ID belongs to friend post.
You have it misspelled.
What? Where?
Friend, you have it friend post as one place and friend post.
Yeah, that's because belongs to is always going to be singular, whereas has many is always going to be plural.
Right. My bad.
Yeah. No, it's all good. Oh, wait. But yeah, there's two ways of doing it. Whichever one you feel a little bit more comfortable with, that's really fine. So the two things that I needed to do was, okay, Rails is assuming when I have user, it's assuming it's assuming a couple of things. That I have a user ID on this table, and then the second thing is that I have a user, capital user class, that I'm going to take this record and stuff it into that user. Whereas when we have something like friend post, right, we don't have the friend post ID column in our table. That's why we have to say, hey, my foreign key is actually post ID, not friend post ID. And then the class that I want to instantiate it is not going to be friend post. That's why you saw that error saying initialize constant user friend post, right? It was getting confused. It was like, I'm not sure there's a friend post class, so I don't know where to stuff this record to. So you have to tell it, like, the class that I'm trying to stuff this record into is going to be post.
Okay.
Jackie?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. If you somehow lose track of your thought and it makes sense now, but it doesn't make sense, like, I don't know, an hour from now, you can just rewatch the video, and then if it still doesn't make sense, then feel free to ask me and I can explain it to you again. This is definitely confusing, so don't feel bad. Okay. Let's see if we can set up the opposite, and this is going to be a little bit easier, more straightforward. So, as a post belongs to a user, right? But let's say we also want to say, like, who are the collaborators on this post, right? So I want to say has many collaborators. How do I set this up?
You do the same thing through collaborations.
Collaborations. Okay. Do I need anything else?
Collaborations. Not.
Yeah. Sorry. Good.
You need the source.
Yeah. And what's the source?
The source here would be the user.
Right. Right. So if I didn't want to use source this way, the other option is to change this into collaborator, and then pass in all these options, right?
Yeah.
It'd just be all about the user.
This is actually pretty cool.
Right?
Yeah, it takes the whole. You can pull from different tables. That's what you're basically doing.
Yeah, you can pull from any table. So the naming convention is there for convenience, but it's not a rule. You can configure it to do other things.
Yeah. I was under the impression, you had to use tables for everything, and you are. But if you had a title for like a column, it had to be part of a table. But this is, it's cool.
Yeah, so another thing that you want to think about is that your SQL server is separate from your application layer. So when you put like has many, that rule doesn't get applied to your SQL server. Your SQL server is actually really dumb. Like, it's just a bunch of buckets, and these buckets represent these tables. And what the power of SQL is connecting those buckets together, but individually they're just a bunch of buckets. So when you are describing these relationships, what you're doing is you're setting a bunch of rules in your application, which is separate from your server, your SQL server. So you're building these relationships in your applications and so you're configuring a different world versus your SQL world.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So we have our logic that says like, okay, we can add collaborators, right? I was able to add a collaborator to this post so that when I do me.friend post, it lists a bunch of posts that I have access to, which is fantastic. That's exactly what we want, right? So now let's move that up the stack. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to app views posts index. Okay, and then so that's where this thing comes in, right? So collection boxes is going to say, excuse me, I want to list all of the collaborators, user ID all, and then the email. So this is going to be the value of the checkbox. This is going to be the word that describes that checkbox, and then we're going to pull from all of the users. A post has many collaborators. Is that right? Post collaborators. Yes. Okay. Cool. So that should work. It does. Okay. So then I need 30 rows. I need 50 columns though. Okay. All right. So now we have these checkboxes. Awesome. So if I save, so if I'm editing a post, this is my post. I don't need to add myself from it. So we will just want to add buddy as the post, right? Okay. So we don't have an update action. Okay. So let's write that. Controllers, post controller, right? So we only have edit. What do I type here?
Define update. It's going to be
at post equals post up, the same line as above.
Okay, so so I'm typing the same thing that I have up there. That's not really dry. How do I dry this up?
You have to have a helper.
Okay, so what do I do here?
How do they do it?
Okay. Right, so I'm going to find the post, and this is what I am duplicating, this line here. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now I do find post. This still feels a little bit not dry, right? I'm still duplicating the find post here. Have you folks heard of before actions?
Yeah.
Okay, so how can I use that to dry up my code a little bit more?
I forgot how they used it in the.
Yeah, it's for basically it's only for edit and update. So find post.
So find post. So any action that is called on this controller is going to first call find post.
Correct.
Okay. If find post raises an error or it returns false, it'll stop the action. It'll stop everything, and it won't do anything. So check this out. If I go back to 300, oh, it still doesn't. Did they change this? Oh, they must have changed it. Yeah, they changed it. Okay, so it's no longer, I think think, okay, so it looks like the only way to stop an action from happening, and this is how like authenticated user works. So you'll have like a before action that says like authenticate user, bang, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this method comes from devise, and it just says like, oh, check to make sure that the user is authenticated. If not, redirect them back to the sign-in page, right? So we can actually do the same thing, although, yeah. What was it? New session path.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think might just give us a like. This might end really bad, but let's just turn return number given x 1 or 0. User session. New user session path. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of what I was afraid of. It was going to give us an infinite redirect loop because I have it on the index page as well. So next question is, how do I stop this action from being called on index?
You do only edit, comma.
Yep. You can do only edit, or you can do accept, which is the inverse of only. So if I do post, it's just going to redirect me back to the page. Like it does it so quickly that you can't even see it. But if you look at your server logs, I'm just going to do it again because it's too far down. I did, okay, started, get posts, and then it called the action and it said, oh, wait, I'm going to redirect to user sign in. Filter chain halted as find post rendered or redirected. So whenever you render or redirect in a filter action, this thing never gets called. So if I do a raise here, that raise method is never going to get called because I'm redirecting before it. So it doesn't 500. But if I were to not do that here, it will raise an error. That make sense?
Repeat that again.
So here I am redirecting automatically in the filter action here, right? So I'm saying, okay, when any of these actions get called in this controller, call this first. And all this is going to do is redirect.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it redirects inside of this method, these methods don't get called.
So what if you have under define edit, you have find post. So you don't right now you don't even need find post in there, correct?
Right now, like we can just do that, and then we can just do that, and then uncomment this out, and then we're good. So all of a sudden we have access to at post here is something.
Okay.
Q. So that is good to know, so that when you do like find, you can do find by .id and then say like if post.mil redirect to root path else. Right. So that says like, oh, if you're trying to find a post that doesn't exist, like for example, foobar, it's not going to error out, right? Whereas like find will for sure error out. And so that's kind of how you would, edit. And that's how you would handle not being able to find a record.
Okay.
Smoothly, right? The other thing you would probably do is like do a flash message, like flash error, right? Something along those lines. So yeah, okay, cool. Okay, so now we have the update here, and so we're passing in a bunch of parameters. And here I'll just show you what the parameters are. We want to edit post 1. Oh, you know what? I need a backlink so that I can go back into back. Yeah, we pass this one. Okay, so yeah, first one is good. Okay. So I'm gonna hit buddy. I'm gonna hit update post, and then it's gonna hit the binding.py because I want to show you what the parameters are. Okay, so those are the parameters. Going back to the code here, what do I need to do in this on this line here? Oops, oh, that's interesting.
You're gonna pull the method.
Those are the parameters.
You have to add a patch method up to it?
So let's say I'm trying to update the title. How do I do that?
Hold on.
Interesting. Okay, so you're gonna do an update, right?
Yes. Oh yeah.
So if params gives you this big ugly hash, right? You're gonna be looking at posts. Now you're only dealing with, you don't care about that or that or that or that. That or that or that or that or that. Okay. Cool. So this is still wrong because this is really dangerous in that, let's say I was editing my username, right? I could easily change the HTML and Markdown to include a admin, and let's just say that, yeah, I want to be an admin. Who doesn't want to be an admin? And then I can start hacking onto your application. So we don't want that. So what Rails gives us is what's called strong parameters. And what that does is that it whitelists certain parameters that you can pass along to the model. So I'm going to do params.require, which says I expect that there's going to be a post key in the params hash. And then that's going to give me back a hash. And so that hash can only, you can only give it, I'm only whitelisting title and body. Because those are the two fields that I want to update. I don't want to update admin because that would be bad. And collaborators we're going to deal with in a different case, because this is an array, right? And we don't have a collaborators column in post, and so that's going to break. So here we're going to do params, post params, and then we're going to require the posts key on the params, and then we're going to whitelist title and body. So if I were to make this, oh yeah, and then the last thing we want to do is just kind of redirect to root. So if we go back to posts, and then we say the moon by night sounds weird, the sun by day is what we want. We update the posts, ta-da. Okay, so that's cool, but we are still missing this collaboration stuff. All right. How are we on time?
I'm okay.
Bijou, I know you said like you only had like an hour.
Yeah, I got like maybe 10, 15.
Okay. So I'm just gonna run through this relatively quickly so that at least we have it on recording. So I'm gonna write a method called update collaborators, and I'm gonna describe that as a private method. Update collaborators. Use the same method. Yes, you are. Okay, awesome. So what I'm trying to do is, like, if my current collaborators are 1, 2, 3, but I want to update my list to 1, 3, 4, I need to remove 2 and add 4, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to say post, and that's the record, and I'm going to say collaborations where user ID is equal to, I'm trying to find all of the IDs where I want to remove. Okay, so the new IDs is params posts collaborators, let me check. Yeah, collaborators. So that's going to be a string of IDs, which is weird because there's going to be an empty value. So I want to get rid of that, and then I want to make sure that they're IDs and not strings, because what I'm pulling out from the database are integers, they're not strings. So if you compare a string with an integer in Ruby, they're not going to be equal. And the reason why I want to do that is old IDs. Is I want to say post dot collaborations dot fuck user ID. Okay, so let's back up a bit. Params post collaborators is equal to 3. In this case, it's going to be equal to 1, 3, 4, and then this really odd empty string. This empty string comes from me not checking all of the checkboxes off, and that happens because in the HTML spec, you can't, there's no such thing as a null value. It's either going to be an empty string or it's going to be a string with a value. So what this is doing here is it's iterating through each element and removing the element if it is empty. So it calls .empty on each of these things. So like one .empty is going to return false, but this .empty is going to return true because it is empty. So because it returns true, it's going to reject that element. So from here, my array is going to look like this. Okay, and then 2i is just converting these strings into integers. So new ID is going to be equal to 1, 3, and 4, like so. Which is different from 1, 3, 4 like this, right? Okay.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that's what this line is doing. This line is saying, I want pull up all of my collaborations and then just select the user ID column. So instead of doing a select asterisk, it's going to just say, give me all of the values in this column. And because that's the only thing that we are concerned with right now. Okay. So the next thing we want to do is we want to say, let's find all of the IDs that we want to remove, right? So IDs to remove is going to equal the old IDs minus the new IDs.
What does pluck do?
So pluck. So when you do like postdoc collaborations, right?
Yeah.
It pulls up the entire record. So if you're looking at a schema file, it'll pull up post ID, user ID, created at, and updated at. We don't need all of that. We just need the user ID.
Okay.
So when we do .pluck, it just pulls out the values that we need, and it makes it into an array.
Okay.
And it gives you the values instead of the object that holds the values, right?
Okay.
So I guess another way of doing this would be map and pluck. And so you would load all the information in there, iterate through each object, calling user underscore ID. This is synonymous with pluck.
Okay.
So okay. Okay, so here we're taking the old stuff, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finding what's the difference. The difference between this array and this array. And that's going to be 2. And it's going to give us back a new array. So we can do post.collaborations.where the user ID is in this array, and then we're just going to do store call. So we're saying we're going to remove all of the IDs that are in the IDs to remove, or all of the records that are in the IDs to remove. And then now we have to do the opposite, right? We have to say IDs to add are going to be the new IDs minus the old IDs. So here we're finding the difference between here and here. This is the inverse, right? So now we can say IDs to add dot each do ID, and then we're just going to do post.collaborations dot create user ID equals ID.
Okay. No, there's a lot you went through in the past 5 minutes, so.
That's complex to update the collaborators. You can't just update by, you can't just save what they check in the edit form. Like a lot easier? I don't know.
So
Is there a way to, you know how like right now all the collaborators are listed but nothing is checked? Is there a way to have it checked if they are a collaborator?
So okay, so the problem with that is you only know which collaborators you want to be. So the form will only give you the collaborators that the user has selected at the time. It doesn't give you which collaborators they wanted to remove.
Okay, that makes sense.
So if I didn't have this remove here, right? Let's say I hit buddy, I add buddy to my post, I go back here, it doesn't do it. Why? Because I need technical difficulties, yeah.
Just explain it to us.
Collaborate. It's easier if I just show it to you. It's not going to take too long.
Okay.
Post. Collaborator IDs. And collaboration.pluck. Okay. So right now we have buddy checked off, right? And we're not removing anything. And then let's say I want to add a non, but I want to remove buddy. If I go here and I stop it right here, router, and hit post, update post. Okay. So we only know the
You spelled params wrong.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Collaborator IDs. Okay, so we only get what they want to add, right? We don't get what they want to remove. So that's why we need this part.
So there is not a way to have it already checked in when you click edit post. So go to your root page. I'll explain.
Can't you destroy all the original collaborators and then just save the new one?
You could. The problem with that is that in this particular case, you can absolutely do that. It's a little bit more. It's a little bit heavier on the SQL side, and then let's say we want to keep track of the time when I added the collaborate, like I added buddy onto that post.
The original time you added it. Okay.
Yeah, because I want to make, like, let's say some profanity got onto the post, right? And I want to say, like, oh, like, when this post got updated with this profanity, who had access to that post? And I can't do that if I'm destroying the collaboration every single time I update this, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So yes, it will work. In our use case, I think that's totally fine. But when you have more information in that relationship, it's a little bit more. You can't do it with just destroying everything, and you know. So yeah, Bjoy, what were you saying?
So go to your root page.
My routes page.
Root, just the main page in the localhost.
I have to release the server. Release the server. Okay. Okay.
So you're at this page. You click Edit Post for the sun by day. When we get, so it's already checked. Okay, I thought it wasn't checked at all. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, it's because this is the state of the database right now, right?
Okay, never mind.
I'd be interested to find out, like, yeah, I agree, this is like really complex, like there's a lot going on. I'd be interested to find out if there was an easier way. So this is the new one, and then this is that's the old IDs, these are the new IDs, and so what you get here is and then the opposite from. I know, like, this operator is really complicated because it just doesn't make sense to me. Like, how do you minus that from this and then get? I don't understand it. But I guess what this is saying is that if I subtract these numbers from here, what remains? 4. If I subtract these numbers from here, what remains? 2. Okay, that was a lot.
Yeah. That last part was a lot.
Yeah, I think it's just because I went through it really quickly. But you can look at the video again. I don't have any. I would challenge you folks to try and do this. Unfortunately, this is not going to be part of our interview pipeline. So it's kind of up to you to decide how you're going to spend your time between the two. But I think that this is a pretty good interview problem.
Yeah. Okay.
I haven't gotten it, but I think I might use it as an interview problem. Cool. Any questions before we sign off?
Is there more left to do on this repo?
No, I think that's it. As far as like, right? The other thing. Oh, the last thing would be to. So right now I'm assigned to me, right? But I'm saying buddy@gmail.com should have permission to also edit the post. If I log yeah, that's right. I need to have a check that says only do this if current user. I need to be able to log into as another user, i.e. Buddy, and be able to also edit that that same post, which I don't think I can right now. User sign in. Buddy, gmail.com, password, and I can't do it, right? So that's the last step of this.
Is it quick?
It might take 15 minutes.
Okay. I mean, you can go ahead, but I gotta go. But
okay.
It's not a simple thing.
What?
It's
like,
not a simple thing.
I would assume it's simple, like just to show the edit post if you are a collaborator. That's basically what it is, right?
Well, you have to do either the owner or the collaborator.
Correct.
But the way you do the collaborator can be very inefficient or efficient. All right, so I'll just do it and then just drop out whenever you have to go. Okay, so here we are doing it in the post index page, right? Because we're listing all of the posts, that's the index page, and we have here like if post.user is equal to the current user, then cool, they can edit this post. What we really want is we want to say, can the current user edit the post? Because we don't want a whole ton of logic in our view. It's not easy to test, and it can get really complicated really fast because you have markdown, making noise, and blah 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 blah. It's really awful. So we're gonna put a method on the user. We're gonna say can edit, and then we're gonna pass it in a post. Okay, so now what we want to do is like, we want to keep that same logic, right? If the post.user ID is equal to my ID, then cool. What we don't want to do is we want to say collaborator or friend post.include post. You can totally do this. This will work. It's just that it is not efficient because you're loading all of these post objects and then making sure that the posts are connecting, which is not ideal. It just takes up a lot of memory. So the better way to do this, sorry, I have something in my eye. The better way to do this is just know how the relationships are defined. They're defined through the collaboration. So if we just do collaborations where post.id is, and then just ask, does it exist? Then all is good.
I gotta go, but I'll look at the video, okay?
Yep.
Hi. Bye.
Hey, man.
Hi.
So Yeah, so I'll just explain it, or maybe you can explain why that is a lot better.
Host dot user ID. So you're just versus first. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, that's good. So when you do friend posts, right? This does a whole bunch of crap in that. Okay, I gotta look at collaborations table, and then load all of the post objects. I'm not done yet because now I have to iterate through the post objects and check if the target post is in this array. Right? So now we have to load all of these things, and then now we have an ON algorithm, right? We're iterating through the array and checking to make sure these two objects are equal. Whereas when you do it like this, you just pass the work off to SQL, and SQL just does it for you.
Okay, that makes sense.
Why is find by more efficient than where?
Because it doesn't raise an error. Or wait, neither does.
Why is find by more efficient than where? In this case, in this particular case.
Yeah, I have no idea.
Find by has count or limit 1.
Okay. Whereas where gives back an array, or
yeah.
Okay.
Where has no limit.
Okay, that makes sense.
And you can, since you're a little bit more familiar with SQL, you can, whenever you have something like this, you can do a .explain and post, and then it'll put out the SQL query.
Oh, that's.
You can do to SQL. Dang it. And then it'll tell you verbosely like what you're trying to do.
Okay.
Cool.
Very cool.
Awesome. So yeah, I think that's the last part of it. Or not. What's wrong? What is wrong? Can edit post. Stuff.id, post.id. Is it not finding the post? Buddy, did I not add buddy? I don't want to do this, but post limit 1. Second break. Okay. So are you not finding it? Hey, you're there. Post. Oh, it's not and, it's or. What am I doing? Sorry. Yeah, or. So either I'm the author or I am a collaborator.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Cool. Like Buddy is not here. He's the only guy up there, and so he's not an author of any of the posts, but he is a collaborator on this, and that's why he can edit.
Okay.
So you'll also notice that I can do something like this, and I can just hack into someone else's thing, right? And I can edit it. So that's really bad. What we want to do is in the controller, yeah, authenticate or user. I don't know. This is probably a really bad one. But now we have to then check user if current user.can edit, and then we have access to find post or post here because this action it runs in the order that you find them. So find post will run before allow user. If I can't edit it, then what I wanted to say is redirect to root. So now when I try to hack into this application, it should just redirect me back. And I can only edit the ones that I'm a collaborator on or a author of.
Okay, that makes sense.
Cool. Any questions?
No.
Awesome.
Very informative.
Good. I like it. All right, so that's it. I'll see you next week.
Okay, sounds good. Have a good week.
You too. Take care.